folks. All right, folks, we're here with the post-game show. Here, Jimmy Uyama and I, and we're ready to talk some big win over UNC. Jimmy, what do you think about this win? What kind of stands out to you?
Well, the offense, the best game of the year for the offense. They're pretty much unstoppable the whole night. I think a lot of that has to do with North Carolina's defense isn't good, right? And they didn't play good, and Notre Dame took advantage of that. So all credit, all credit. You have to make that known that that's part of it. But at the same time, like, man, Notre Dame is playing so much better. They've improved drastically. They're getting the ball to playmakers more, even when there's like things like, that Avery Davis drop, which was obviously a big drop in the game, but look how many other big plays he made in the game. Look at Kevin Austin and the kind of game he had. Lorenzo Styles, like, get this guy the ball more. What an exciting player. And Kyron Williams, what can you say about Kyron Williams? He's probably, you have to say, he's the best back of the Brian Kelly era, and
There's no question. There's no question.
and when you're coming down to it, he's now in the conversation as the best offensive players.
No doubt
That he's
about
had.
it.
And you're with like Floyd
Oh
and
yeah, sure.
Fuller and all these guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. It just it. I think we've been telling people for a long time that this is just who he is, but man, just the 91-yard run.
Yeah.
There's hardly
It
anybody,
was phenomenal.
who can do that. Not just the fact of finding the vision, but also the ability to kind of stiff arm, make people miss, and it just wasn't even that. There were so many great runs from Kyron Williams. The guy's just magical. He really is amazing. I'm shocked that there were a couple times there towards in the goal line. I realized that hey, after that quick turnover, after he ran the 91 yards. I realize he's kind of gassed there, and you want to give him a little bit of a breather. But I'm sorry, that was a critical moment. I would have liked to see Kyron Williams in the game. Same thing as the end of the game. They had Diggs in there as well, and he came in later, obviously. But it just, I don't know. There's really not much to really nitpick when it comes to the offense.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we talked about leading up to this game, or at least I did, that I felt like the offense was ready to take a big step, and I felt like the defense was going to start to get exposed. And I think that's exactly what we saw in the game today. Exactly that. And I just, we can talk about talent, we can talk about depth, and all the reasons that the defense is getting gashed, but they just don't tackle well, Jamie. They just don't. And that's got to be on somebody, right? You can't say, well, the talent isn't there or the scheme isn't there. It's just basic fundamentals. And you and I knew that Howell was going to run the entire game. We talked about it. Marcus Freeman knew, right? Everybody on the defense knew. And we knew Josh Downs was going to be a guy that you had to defend. And I think that while they kept him out of the end zone, he got his plays, and he had a pretty good game, certainly. But they did a good job of keeping him out of the end zone and that type of thing. But really didn't matter. They still scored 34. And, that's a bit of a concern for me. Your thoughts?
Oh, the tackling was horrific in this game. It was bad. Howell's a stud.
Yeah.
He's a elusive, tough kid. They run him way too much.
He's going to get
almost
hurt. Yeah.
unfair. He's going to get hurt.
Yeah,
And,
he is.
he looked beat up
Beat
at
up,
the end
yeah.
of that game, and which is incredible because he looked beat up before that 31-yard run, and then he made that run, right? So,
Yeah.
So tip your cap to him, but
Tough kid, yeah.
the tackling was atrocious. It was atrocious, and this has been a problem. This has been a problem all year that maybe we probably haven't emphasized enough. But how many times do guys get driven back through contact on tackling?
I know.
And you know what that is, Mike? And it's not just that one individual guy, but it's where's the rest of the help? on
Yeah.
a lot of those plays, and they're not getting there. So I mean, it does fall back to Marcus Freeman, and it falls back to all those coaches, right? And because if you look at it, so Kurt Heinisch, and I know the guy's a warrior, right? But I, he should have like 10 tackles for loss this year.
Yeah.
He misses like 3 tackles for loss per game.
Oh, I know.
And it happens all the time. And I don't want to just pick on him because there's a million guys that you could say, but and because of that, like there's this game was set up where they finished with 2 sacks. It was really 3 sacks. Obviously, Botello had the one at the end of the game, right? But I mean, they should have had like 9 sacks
Oh,
in
absolutely.
the game, and where they have him in the grasp,
Flat.
right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Foskey
And so
flat missed him too. And
yeah,
you
so
can't
I
have
mean, it was
that.
a
Yeah.
yeah,
And when he missed him, it ended up being a huge play. It really did. Plus,
yeah.
that was the J.D. Bertrand, roughing the passer penalty.
Oh
That
man,
that
the
was the
treating,
same penalty. The
yeah,
same play. And
yeah,
if Foskey just wraps him up, you don't. This game is, well, it's over at that point, certainly. And I don't know. There is something missing with this defense and fundamentals. It's just not very. They're not very good tacklers. They're also not very sound. Things that we didn't see before, Jamie, we saw in this game, which is some busted plays. That's concerning. Now, again, you have some new people back in the secondary. Man, I'm sorry, folks. I want to apologize, but it looks like a strip club in here with the TV going. I don't know what the hell, but the TV keeps changing colors, so it looks like I'm in a carnival or something. But I have my TV right next to my computer here, so I can keep an eye on what's going on. But anyway, so it's a crazy. I don't know. It was a disappointing performance defensively, and I'm not sure that a lot of it could be fixed. I think a lot of it is a talent issue at this point, and I think part of it is you're asking players to do something that they're just not very good at as well. But again, I don't know what the alternative is either. What is the alternative? And I don't know the answer to that. I think Marcus Freeman is kind of running out of ideas, and if you run into guys that start getting worn down as far as look, I mean, it was funny. I was texting my buddy. I'm like, this is another reason you don't put your best pass rusher out in pass coverage because he could get hit for an ACL injury, which almost happened there with Foskey. And I mean, granted, these are things, it was a joke, of course, but you're asking Foskey to do something he's just not very good at. And I don't know. It just, I wish I had an answer. I don't have an answer, buddy. I just don't.
I think it really boils down to, like you said, fundamentals. I mean, it's a problem. Tackling is a problem. Like, you got to go back to basics because, I mean, to miss that many tackles,
Yeah.
and this was by far the worst game, obviously, right? And obviously, Howell is a good player, but I mean, it's just inexcusable to have it that many times, and really, yeah, like you could say the 2 busts, right? The 2 busts. Those are plays. Kyle Hamilton's there. He probably erases those,
Yeah.
right? But the problem is you
Or
don't
at
have
least a
Kyle
10-yard
Hamilton.
game. Yeah. 10
Yeah, they're yeah, it's like
Yeah.
20 yards maybe or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That one, I can guarantee you, that one,
He
like
would have chased it.
he's chasing it down. The
Yeah.
other one that
Yeah.
busted where Henderson
Yeah.
bit up on it, like Kyle Hamilton's covering that up. It's like a 20-yard gain or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's just, but you don't have him.
Yeah.
You don't have him. So
And they
that's
won't have him for a while, I don't think.
no, I don't
Yeah.
think so, right? It's going to be at least a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
at least, right? Maybe not for the rest
Maybe
of the
ever.
year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so that, I mean, that is a problem. So, I mean, I don't want to act like it's not the talent because, Matt and I were speaking this week and we were talking about, this defense without Marist, without Kyle Hamilton, and how many guys right now are going to be NFL draft picks. And you'd say, I mean, Foskey, obviously. MTA, he's going to play in the league. Like he's going to be drafted. Outside of that, there's I wouldn't say there's a sure thing. Cam Hart, maybe, right? Like probably, hopefully, right? Clarence Lewis maybe as a safety. I don't know, right? Like there's some guys that ifs, right? But I mean, you wouldn't say like Drew White. I mean, obviously the guy's a 3-year starter. He's a good football player, but he's not going to play in the league, right? Bo Bauer isn't going to play in the league. Like, so I mean, when you lose two of your top guys who are probably going to be NFL guys, I mean, that's big. Maybe Jack Kaiser, right? We'll see about Jack Kaiser, but I mean, I'll tell you right now, he's not playing at a level where you're like, this guy, he's going to be an NFL player. So,
Well, the
I mean,
linebackers
that's
as a whole are not playing well. They're just not.
no.
Yeah, they're just not.
I mean, they're stuck on blocks too
Yeah.
much, and I mean, to me, guys guess wrong a lot, and I mean, it's a problem. It's a problem, and it's not just. And that to me, it's fair to say it's not just all talent, right?
No.
So,
No, I agree.
and I understand they're gonna, and you know what, we knew it was gonna be tougher because they're gonna play the better offenses, right? And now, really, all they have is Virginia left. And for anyone who thinks, well, oh, Virginia's gonna, score like mad on Notre Dame, they probably are gonna score a lot on Notre Dame. But I mean, I just checked the game and they were losing 28-7 to BYU. So I don't.
28-14 now.
Yeah, but like, I mean, their defense sucks too, right? So they're not going to be able to stop Notre Dame either, right? Like that is a game. Like, I mean, anything can happen, turnovers or whatever. But I mean, they're going to give up like 50 to Notre Dame probably. They're terrible.
Yeah.
So I mean, Notre Dame could still win out, but I mean, I'm not confident that they're going to play well or do anything in that game. And I wasn't confident they were going to come in and play that well. I thought UNC was going to screw it up because of they gave up a ton of pressure in the game. Notre Dame just couldn't get held down.
Yeah. No, it was. I thought the D-line would do a better job of rushing the passer, though. I really did. So many 3 down on this, and we can talk about that, whether that makes sense or not. I think because the way UNC was kind of doing some things that there was some real reason for playing some 3 down in this. But at the same time, it just was highly, highly ineffective. But again, is it talent? I just think that Notre Dame's back end right now is just not very good. And when you're not very good athletically and you're very poor fundamentally, you got a big problem. And that's what they have right now in that back end is they're just not very gifted athletically and they are not good fundamentally. And, I agree with you and Matt that there's not like a lot of great talent on this team that are sure bona fide NFL picks. But, Clark Lee had a lot of these same players and they did pretty well. Excuse me.
I think you could look at every one of they had a lot more NFL guys. Like they had a lot more NFL guys. And even if you look at last year and you saw that they had less last year, and that was his worst defense, right? Yeah. So, you are
correct. There is no JOK. There is no JOK. And everybody knows that.
Yeah, so it's like they lost Hamilton, last year against UNC, but they still had Jeremiah Wosu-Koromoa, They still had Ade Ogundeji and Dalen Hayes, and they still had plenty of dudes. And Myron wasn't playing defensive end when he's a 3-tech. So I mean, there's a lot of those kind of issues that and even as we could say about Sean Crawford, wasn't an NFL guy, but I mean, he got ripped for a lot of stuff, but I would take him at free safety over DJ Brown. I know DJ Brown made the pick. Like, I'm glad he got the pick, but I mean, you can see he's slow.
Yeah.
He's slow, right? So,
and they're slow to react too. I mean, both of them just get completely frozen out there. They're just slow to react. And, I don't think there's an answer at this point. I think what's going to happen is Notre Dame's offense is just going to have to continue to get better because I think that the defense is just going to continue to get exposed. Virginia, I think, will be able to do it. But, Jamie, look, you're not a good fundamentally sound team, and now you're playing Navy. You're not a good fundamentally tackling team, and now you're playing Navy.
I don't know. I don't think Navy's very good fundamentally right now. So I mean,
they seem to do okay against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They did.
I don't know. I don't. Well, we could say that's from the same tree too. So, but I mean, they've done well against Cincinnati before. I think there's enough guys with, especially because of um, Elston, and I mean, there isn't there you're not going to find too many guys who have played against Navy, coached against Navy more than Mike Elston,
Oh, that's true.
right? So
I agree with that.
I think that's going to
But how
be
much will
a big.
Marcus Freeman listen to Mike Elston in that situation?
I think you listen to him a lot
I
because
also,
I mean, I think, at this point too, and the one thing I would say about Marcus Freeman is people think that this guy's, he's all this hype or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, of course he's going to be this hype guy. Yeah, he's trying to get recruits. He's trying to get better guys, and look what he's doing. So he is producing in that sense. But at the same time, I think everything that I've heard about him when I spoke to him in the summer and stuff, I think he's a pretty humble guy, and he's been humbled before. And I mean, I don't think he wants. People think, I see some of the comments of people like, "Oh, he's gone. He's going to go to a small school." He's not going anywhere. He's
no,
not going anywhere. And
no way.
plus, the other
Why
thing
would he
is,
take a smaller job anyway?
he's definitely not going to take a small
No,
job.
no.
And you don't recruit these guys that you're doing and say, "I don't want to coach them." He
Yeah.
wants to coach these guys. He
Yeah.
wants to
Well,
coach
because
these
he
guys.
wants to take these guys and parlay them into a really big job, which
Yeah,
everybody
that's
does. There's nothing
exactly
wrong with
right.
that.
So
I mean, that's a
yeah,
goal every coach should have.
for
But
sure.
I think that, he wants to prove that what he wants to do and can do will work here. He just needs to have the type of players he is. And, I think you and I have been very consistent in saying that if they had Marist, a lot of these problems would go away. I think, and that's no disrespect to JD Bertrand. It's just Marist can play a style of defense that JD Bertrand cannot play, just because of a physical ability. And
Yeah,
and I think that that's really the interest. And look, JD Bertrand, had a penalty tonight that was very costly, but he's been pretty solid, at least as a
oh
tackler.
yeah,
I mean, this isn't the end of the world. It was a frustrating game. It was
yeah,
another Brian Kelly win. This is just the way they win a lot of times. It was frustrating, but I also think that people are fooling themselves and thinking that North Carolina, they're going to make some plays. They got some talent. Sam Howell's a very good quarterback. And I thought he played really well, minus the one throw. I thought that was one of his best games, and he protected the ball well.
yeah.
Um, and
Well,
I
it's the
think
best
that,
offense Notre Dame has faced all year.
oh,
It's
no
their top
question.
15 offense. So,
And they were very
yeah,
efficient. They were very efficient. But I have to say as well, for all the people who've criticized Tommy Rees, they've played really well the last three games and protected the football.
yeah,
If you can't be a great offense, at least you got to help your defense out by protecting the football and not putting them in bad situations like they did in some of the earlier games, right? And they've really done a good job of that. And now we're starting to see the offense really start to come together. But man, I mean, there's a lot to like about, especially offensively. I mean, gosh,
yeah.
we can talk about Lorenzo Styles, and of course we should because he was amazing and stepped up when they really needed him to. But I don't know if you noticed, but Deion Colsey had some monster blocks out there and did a really
He
good
did.
job for a freshman receiver. And now you got two guys who can really play out there to go with the guys you have. Um, you know, Austin made a couple big plays. You've got Avery Davis making plays. I mean, it sucks that we keep having guys go down, but I like seeing guys stepping up on offense. And I mean, gosh, anytime you can run, I know it's North Carolina, but Notre Dame really ran the ball well today. And North Carolina knew Notre Dame was going to try and run the ball, but it really didn't matter. And I think that Notre Dame did a good job of executing in this game. This was by far the best offensive performance of the year.
And second half too,
Yeah,
they
when it
ran the
mattered,
ball.
yeah.
Well, they ran the ball when they had to. Obviously, you want to see them score on that one,
Yeah,
one and goal situation. They had the three tries at it, and maybe in hindsight, probably Reeves probably would have thrown a play action or something on
yeah,
that third down. But I mean, how can you complain when they're rushing for they rush for 293
yeah,
on the game, and I mean Notre Dame was like 93
yeah,
for like the first like six games.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean I would say that that they've improved immensely, and I think Reese has done a fantastic job setting Cone up for success. With how he's called the game, what they've done, and you know what, and Cone too has made a lot of big throws
Yeah, he has.
that like, and has looked like the guy that
We thought he would be. Yeah.
we thought he would be, right? So, I mean, you got to say like, and also too, like what the usage of Buckner, great. How they used him in this game, like especially, everyone thinks it's run on 2-and-goal, and you call an RPO, he hits the bubble, and it's Davis walks in for a touchdown. Like
Yeah.
that's great. That's
Was
great. They did
really, really nice play.
Yeah, and I think too, you know what? And it's for all the people that ripping on Jeff Quinn, and I mean, you can't forget that the beginning of the season happened, but he is getting his guys that are playing better and improving. So that does mean something too. And I mean, still, like I wouldn't say that
tonight. Was there only one sack tonight?
I believe there was only
Yeah,
one sack.
I think it was early, and it kind of was because he held on the ball too long again.
Yeah, he kind of stepped into it too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I would put it more, even if you wanted to say it was more on the coverage than it would be anything else, if you didn't want to put it on Cone. So yeah, I mean, and how many times did you see like Cone running for his life, or even then too, when Cone had to get out and throw it out? And yeah, of course you'd want Cone to be a little bit more athletic, although we did have that one touchdown run, but even when he's able to get out, because he's not having it all closed in on him. And, they're not a great pass rushing team, but that's what you do against not a great pass rushing team, right?
Yep.
You give your guy a pocket. So, they're doing a tremendous job. 7.7 yards per play. Like you'll take that any day. And, it was, best offensive performance of the season by far.
Yep. All right. Well, folks, if you're out there, we see a lot of people online right now viewing the show. If you have questions, you can go into chat and ask questions. If you would, just say question or question mark or something, so we know whether you're actually asking us a question or you're just, communicating with others in the chat. But if you want to ask us a question, make sure you put in question or a question mark, so when I'm looking for it, I know that you're asking a question. That will really help us out. First question comes from Larry. He says, can you guys discuss goal line offense? I mean, I think I like what Reese is trying to do. I would prefer to have Buckner in there more than Cone. I was okay with it, other than probably, in the critical, there were a couple critical moments there where they had Diggs in there. Totally get it. Kyron can't play the entire game. But those were critical points. I would have liked to seen Kyron in there the whole time. But that's really about the only thing I had a problem with. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, that was the main thing. I mean, there's a couple calls here and there, but I mean, I think he did a pretty good job overall. Like that one drive, I would say it's more an execution. Like they got to score there. Yeah. You're inside the 2, you got to score, right?
Absolutely.
That's I don't think that's like on the OC there. So, and I would say, yeah, Buckner would like to see him used a little bit more in those situations, but they did use him and it worked pretty well.
All right, let's see here. Next question is, what's the status of Isaiah Foskey? I haven't heard what Kelly said, but he did come back.
He played. He did come back
in the game, so I don't think that there's probably anything too bad. Next question: how much for you two to give live commentary on the Stanford-Washington game? Yeah, well, I really want to watch that, so we'll see if we can get a chance to watch that here at the end. Mike, what do you think, or Jimmy and Mike, what do you think the score would have been with a healthy Kyle Hamilton? That's a good question. I mean, I think that he probably would have erased at least a couple of those big plays. And, probably would have held him to 21 or so, 24 maybe, I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to guess they would probably would have won by, they won by 10. They probably would have won by 17.
Something
20,
like that,
maybe,
yeah.
I mean, he does. He makes those, erases, things like that. And I think they missed them, definitely.
Yeah. Question, Mike, is Botello in the doghouse or just still developing? He's not in the doghouse, but, he lost contain on the one run there. And then he really didn't hustle to try and chase him down, which was kind of surprising for Botello. That's not going to look good on film rewatch. But made the sack. I think he's a guy that if you just give him a chance, he'll probably continue to make more and more plays. Anything from you, Jamie?
I mean, it helped that he got the sack. If you look on that replay, the guy got his face in his or hand in his face mask there.
Yeah.
So on the one where I don't know, maybe he thought he was going to get a call or something. I don't know, but I think he'll get more opportunities. And the other thing is if you're winning more and you're getting and you're up more points. So like if you're taking care of Navy like you should be taking care of against Navy, then he's a guy who's going to play a lot more.
Yeah. Next question: should Styles get 12 looks a game? Answer: yes. Well, I guess that's what you think. Yeah. I mean, I think the guy he's earned the opportunity to get some plays to him for sure. I think you'll see more from him, won't you, Jamie?
I would be shocked if we don't see more from him.
Yeah.
I just, and plus, Lindsey was out. He said it was upper body. Looked like maybe he got his bell rung, so that might be a concussion. If it's a concussion, chances are he's probably not going to play next week. So it's going to be more reps for Styles in practice and probably more targets in the game.
Yeah. Next question. I know what you mean by elite. When I watched Caleb Williams today, can we get an elite quarterback next cycle? Well, I'd say this: they are in on. I don't know ranking wise whether they're kind of elite, but I'd say just based off the guys they've offered, Jamie, this is a pretty good quarterback class in 2023. I really like a lot of guys. I mean, I'd be fine with a number of the guys that they've offered. I think that they're all pretty damn talented, so if they don't get Dante Moore, I don't think the consolation prize is going to be a whole lot less because I really like these guys.
Yeah, 2023 is a good quarterback year. A lot of good athletes, and I think guys that can be big parts of the running game as well. So I think they do have a chance to get a pretty darn good quarterback. And then I think obviously you're going to see a guy like Tyler Buckner hopefully just do more and more and develop more and more.
Yeah. Next question: why not play the young linebackers if the older guys can't make the plays? What's the point? Well, who
are the young linebackers?
Yeah, I mean
they don't have anybody. They've had a lot of injuries.
Yeah, you could play a Bo Bauer versus Drew White. You could play a Prince Coley, but again, here's a guy who really hasn't played. Just hasn't had the reps, and there's not a lot of time to do that type of stuff. Maybe he'll play a little bit more down the line, but I don't know. There's just not a lot of young linebackers out there. And we kind of said they made a mistake by not recruiting linebackers the last couple of years. They needed to land some, and they just didn't do a very good job of it. So, let's see. Hasn't Freeman coached against Navy at Cincinnati? Yeah, he has. And
they did a good job.
Yeah,
they did a good job against.
Yeah. That was a very bad Navy team, but yeah. But this is not a very good Navy team either. I was just surprised they played as well as they did against Cincinnati last week. And sometimes that team, if they get things rolling, they're tough to beat. And I think that's what happened. So, let's see. Not sure if this has been covered, but where is the starting D line compared to last year? Seems like it should be slightly up outside of the big end. What are your thoughts, Jamie?
I mean, I would say overall, it's because it's not just this. I think if you said the starters and you looked at it, you would say, yeah, Foskey, you'll take over Dalen Hayes, but yeah, you're not going to take Jason Adelola. I think he's probably playing, maybe a little bit better than Myron, but I think pass rush wise, but Myron was also a really good run defender, super underrated, made a huge impact that I don't think people maybe took credit for. And I think Kurt Heinisch was playing a lot better last year. So, I mean, and Ade obviously was better than Myron, at the big end. So I think if you looked at that across the board, and then if you looked at the whole, like, the
Yeah.
D line depth, yeah, they're not as good on the D line this year.
Yeah. Question: do you guys think the offensive staff goes to 12 and 13 personnel in part due to the issues with the lack of wide receiver depth. It has to be concerning to roll with 4 scholarship wide receivers as of the second quarter. Yeah, I mean, I think that plays a little bit into it, certainly. But, you know, Lorenzo Styles, young guy, probably got a lot of juice, Deion Coles, he hadn't played a lot. I bet, when he's in the game, his body's not worn down like some of these other guys. Just hasn't played a whole lot. But yeah, I mean, I think that they play some 12 and 13 personnel more because they want to be able to run the football. And they know that if they have a good running game, this is a very effective offense. And we've seen that now. They've been able to run the ball last 3 weeks, and because of that, good things have happened. Jamie, anything you want to add?
Well, the other thing is that at tight end, which is incredible, right? Because um, what's his face? Bauman is out. He's been out. And then, the young guy from Georgia that I'm forgetting his name, but he tore his ACL. So right now they're down at tight end too, right? So, man, it probably isn't emphasized enough how terrible the injury luck has been.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, man, I think everyone was holding their breath with Kyron and
Big
Foskey
time.
today
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So thank God both those guys came back in. But
Yeah.
I mean, they've just had horrible, horrible luck all around, just at almost every position.
It's amazing they're 7-1 considering all the stuff that's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Next question: how would you grade Marcus Freeman as a coach so far? Interesting that Cincinnati hasn't missed a beat with him gone. What's your thoughts?
Well, they're loaded. They're loaded on defense, so I think that's got a lot to do with it. And I also think Fickle has a big part in what they do there. So, and they had, so I think that's got a lot to do with them doing well. I mean, Freeman, I'd probably give him like a B minus. Because I mean, obviously this was not a good game. And he's had certainly some bad moments, but they've also had a lot of good moments too. So, I don't want to act like this tackling has been this bad every week. It's been rough in spots, but not this bad. So, I mean, I'll wait and see. This is also the best offense they face. But I mean, to me, it's always like an incomplete because what are they going to do when they get to play Virginia? And are they going to be that much better? Because that's what I want to see. And also, too, you're also grading it based on the talent. And we've already talked about the talent more than enough.
All right. Question, Jamie: is this a poor defense, or is the poor defense a combination of first-year coordinator and poor recruiting overall by Lee? And why isn't Prince seeing the field with our linebackers playing so poor?
Well, Prince Coley, I think we've gone over. I feel like I should just have it. We should pin it at the top of ISD's board every week. I mean, he was literally the 4-string rover right at the beginning of camp. And then all of a sudden, Maris gets hurt. He's out for the year. Moala gets hurt. He's out for the year. Simon gets hurt. He's out for a year. And then he's got to move into Will, where he hadn't been practicing. And then he got COVID. So he's a guy who's a freshman, who's also learning. And he's also put in a spot where he's got to work at a position where he wasn't even getting close to he wasn't even working with the twos when he was even at Rover. Right. So, I think to be fair to him, because I'm really high on his talent and him and as an athlete, I think he could be a great player, but I just don't think you're putting him in a situation to fail if you put him in right now. And I think, I think it says it all too, that why isn't he in? If he was good enough and he was ready, he'd be getting reps right now.
I agree. Let's see. Mike, I'm not convinced DJ Brown or Houston Griffin could beat Cone in a foot race. I don't have a question. Oh boy, what do you do with that? Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. Next one, Shanty.
Houston, I thought had a pretty decent game tonight. You know,
Shanty, any chance of landing Arch Manning?
no.
Zero. Zero chance. Yes. Very, very. Oh, we got a super chat here from. This will be interesting. Hey guys, is Drew Pine alive? He looked good when he played earlier in the season. Is he hurt? No, he's not hurt. They're going with what they have right now, and that what are you going to do? I mean, Cone has looked really, really good. I think what they have right now at quarterback's been pretty darn good, and I don't think there's much to complain about. Anything from you, Jamie?
No, nothing else to add. I mean, it's tough to complain, and I don't think that they're gonna. I mean, we said that after Virginia Tech, if it didn't go well against USC, then I mean, who knows? Then he could play, but I mean, I don't see him really getting any chances anytime soon, based on what we've seen.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Could you two and could you two and nine other guys score on our defense? I don't think I could score. No, no. I don't think you probably don't have the big moves anymore, Jamie.
No, I'm gonna say I couldn't shake a Kurt Heinrich tackle
Yeah.
100%. There's no way he'd pound me. He'd destroy me.
All right. We got some more questions here. How much do you think the defense is missing Maris Luafau and Paul Moala? Jamie?
That we probably don't bring up Moala enough too, because I think they are missing him because he's kind of the mix of Kaiser and Pryor in terms of like, I think he's a guy who could play, drop down into the box and play that, but then also he's athletic enough to play on the perimeter, kind of more like what Pryor does too, a little bit better than Kaiser. So yeah, they definitely miss him. And there's something about Tumal too. Like whenever you watch the guy in practice or whatever, he's always making plays. He's always doing something. He just has those instincts. So him and Maris too, both those guys, extremely instinctive guys, fast players, playmakers, right? And I think one thing that you've noticed too, in these last games, and Havoc has been dropping way down. And some of that is they've played a little bit safer because, the personnel, but then some of it is they just don't have guys that are just flat out make a play, maybe run down a guy when you don't think because there is no JOK type guy. And Maris would be the closest thing to that. So I think that's what they're missing because I would 100%, I would have been convinced he would have been a double digit Havoc guy this year, making a ton of plays.
Oh, no question. All right. Do we have help coming at linebacker? Yeah, I mean, Josh
Yeah, a
Burnham
lot.
is certainly a big time player. Will he be a Viper or will he play inside backer? I don't know. But certainly a guy who can make a lot of plays. They've got Junior Tui Halamaka. They got Nolan Ziegler and
Jalen Sneed.
yeah, Jalen Sneed. So they've got a lot of guys, and those guys can play. Nolan Ziegler could play Rover. He could play Will linebacker. Jalen Sneed could play inside, could play Rover. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility with these guys. So, I think that it's a good group. I think that they're looking pretty good. Question: well, did Indy win and Michigan lose? Yeah, they did. Let's see. If you have more questions, make sure you post in there so I know. Got some more here. I meant to ask this after the FSU game, but is it realistic to expect the team to get better in tackling in season, or is that an off-season improvement? Well, yeah, you can get better at it if you focus on it, but it's hard because there's not a lot of time. But they do have individual stuff that they work on before they start working on team and game plan, and that's where it has to get better. But can it get better? It's going to have to next week, or we're going to have a big problem, Jamie.
Well, and I think it has been better, not in this game, obviously, but if you look at from FSU and you saw like the gradualness, obviously, like when they played Wisconsin, they tackled really well. And I think some of it is that, they're playing these spread teams, faster teams, and they especially struggle to tackle in space. So, that's got something to do with it too.
All right. the players seemed to be in place to make the tackle, but just didn't miss or make the tackle. How is this lack of talent that the board Freeman apologists like to keep saying over and over again? It's a good point.
Well, part of talent is making the play. That is part of talent, right? And you could say that Drew White. I mean, as much I've always been a big Drew White guy, but that's one of the things he's always kind of struggled with is he's struggled to tackle in space, and he's missed far too many tackles over the years. So, I mean, you have a guy like that, and you don't have the other guys around there, right? And I just think, the back end too, a lot of new players that aren't like, Cam Hart, who had tackled well earlier in the year, didn't miss any tackles in this game, but, had a couple horrendous whiffs in the last couple games, right? So, I mean, that I don't even know how to explain that because I don't think like Mike Mickens is a bad coach, a bad fundamental coach at all. Like I think he's a guy who really like hammers them with fundamentals. So I have no idea why like Cam Hart like whiffed so bad on those tackles or anything, but it just happened.
Yeah,
like confidence maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wish I had the answer.
Question, Mike, as well as Cone has played, do you agree that if he hits Styles in stride, it's 6 and he doesn't drop the ball because he didn't have to stop running? That's been a problem all year. Cone's just not very good. But I will say this, Styles absolutely should have caught the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 100%. That's just a play you have to make and didn't make it. And there were a few of those left on the table. It's pretty impressive when you think that a lot of those were still left on the table and they still scored as many points as they did. So, there's not a lot to be upset about offensively. That's for darn sure. Compared to where they were, man, this team's looking pretty good right now offensively. Once again, if you have questions, make sure you put question, and so we know, and we'll put it up here. Got one here. Will Virginia score 100 on us? No, I don't think so. I would be very surprised. Oh, I just noticed that was Buccos. Imagine that. Let's see. Here's one question outside of Will with Marist. Which position on D could take the biggest step next year? What do you think there, Jimmy? I hope it's cornerback.
I do think it could be cornerback because those guys are still young guys for the most part who aren't that experienced. So I think Cam Hart. I mean, we've seen like especially the guy had like a couple games there where people were really like saying, could this guy be a first round pick one day? Like people were hyped about him, right? So I think there's definitely like way more. He's just scratching the surface of what he can be. I think if you looked at this game too, and obviously, part of it is the matchup, but you don't see Clarence Lewis getting destroyed in this game, right? And I definitely think JoJo Johnson, it's another guy who's hurt for the year. He would have played. Like he was making a ton of plays, heard a ton of good things about him in the summer. I think he was going to play. I think he's probably got a good shot at being the nickel next year. So, Bracey, I don't think has played bad at nickel or anything, but, obviously got picked on that one play. It was horrible, no call, but,
yeah.
Like I think JoJo Johnson, the ceiling is higher for him than Bracey. So, I think that is an area where they can get better.
Going to have to, definitely going to have to. And I think there's a chance that they can. Let's see here. Here's a good question. Who are the starting linebackers next year? That's a good question, Jamie. What do you think?
I think it's probably going to be Bertrand at Mike, Marist at Will. And then at Rover, it's probably going to be Kaiser. Yeah, I think that's probably what it's going to be. But, I mean, we'll see. That's the other problem is that you look at, I mean, you can't count on Moala because obviously I just feel terrible for him. He's got the 2 Achilles back-to-back. So, I mean, who knows if he's going to play ball again.
Would you?
And then, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say Coley,
That's where you put him, yeah.
Because Coley, I think I would have started.
Will or do you look at him more at Rover?
Well, I think it just depends on like how much you like Coley and where he's at. Because if Marist is everything you want him to be at Will, and Coley's too good, then maybe you do that and play him there. And I actually think that I think Kaiser is better suited to be an inside linebacker, right? So
I
I
agree.
think,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. So I mean, he might be someone who competes at Mike next year, right? So
I think that
I
might
think
be
you're gonna have,
a position for
yeah,
him, actually.
yeah. So I
Um,
think they got some good options there out of those guys, but then it's like when it comes down to it, it's depth, and it's got to be a lot of those young guys,
yeah.
right? So we'll see what happens there.
All right. Hey, Mike, what do you attribute our improvement at O line? Well, I think it's Joe Alt coming in and kind of solidifying things. I think he's played really, really well. Had another real solid game. I think adding Kristofic in there has really kind of solidified things. And I think part of it is, Notre Dame time to spread teams out a little bit, but also I think that just kind of playing tempo and trying to get the ball out quicker has really helped the offensive line. And, when you have some success throwing the football, teams aren't going to just continue to just try and stop the run. I mean, they have to worry about you making some plays in the passing game, and so I think that's helped the running game a little bit as well. Anything you want to add, Jamie?
Yeah, they got away from some of the stuff they were doing with runs earlier in the year, trying to run outside zone. I don't think the personnel in terms of who they had on the offensive line didn't suit, especially Madden and Lug. And they started running more inside zone. They started running more duo, and they started running right at teams. And that's what you saw today. How many inside runs did they have where they ran right at North Carolina?
Yeah,
And North Carolina, you would say that, coming into this game, Brian Kelly was like, oh, these are maybe the two best defensive tackles they had. Well, they ran right at them, and they had a lot of success.
yeah. Question: after 8 games, do you think the team could win more than 4 games without Jack Cohn after today? I'm really appreciating Cohn's play. Yeah, no, I do. I mean, there's no way they're only going to win 4 games against Buckner or uh, Pine. They certainly would, but I agree with you. I think Cohn has really kind of come into his own and solidified his position and bounced back. But I think that he probably could have played close to this had Reese kind of called that type of a game leading up to this. I think he could have been more effective. But I think part of it too was a big part of it was adding Joe Alt and adding Kristofic to kind of solidify where they're at offensive line wise, and I think that that's helped as well. Anything from you, Jamie?
Yeah, I think if Drew Pine was the quarterback too, I think they'd still have a winning record.
Oh, no doubt.
They
Yeah,
still, yeah. I'm not saying that Cohen has played
they'd win
really,
as
really
many.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe they don't win as many, but I think they'd still have a winning record.
yeah, certainly. And I think if Pine was your quarterback, you'd see more Buckner too.
Yeah,
You definitely would. Question: do you guys think that Kelly Reese will open up the passing game for Buckner this year? Has looked more and more like a pure option quarterback. Well, they did open it a little bit, but I think in this game, the way it was playing out, it was harder for that to happen. I think you'll see more Buckner throwing the ball next week. Probably even a little bit more against Virginia because their defense is so suspect. We'll see what happens against North Carolina and Stanford, but I think you'll see Buckner throw the ball a little bit more moving forward. Your thoughts, Jamie?
yeah, I think so. And then they got into the situation today too, where it's third down. They took the shot with Austin,
Yep.
right, with him. So, they're not afraid to do it. So that's a good thing.
All right. Wait a minute. Hit the wrong one. Do you guys see that arm brace on Kane Madden? That thing was so huge it looked like a prosthetic. Did his backup offend Quinn's wife? Oh man, come on, man! How could a one-arm Madden be better? Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think Kane. I think Cade Madden had a pretty good game. I'll have to rewatch, but I thought he was pretty solid. What do you
Last
think?
three games,
Yeah,
he's played much closer to the guy
that we
that
were hoping he'd
we
be.
thought. Yeah, we were hoping he'd be. I think he still, he still has his limitations,
Yeah,
right? But I think when it comes down to it, when we were like talking about him before, and people thought we were exaggerating or being ridiculous, but one, it's a huge jump. Conference USA is not a strong conference, guys. You're not going to face a lot of like quality D linemen in Conference USA, and they ran a much different offense. So there were questions there. And I think if you look at it size wise and all the stuff, he's much closer to a Trevor Ruland than he is like even a Tommy Kramer.
Yeah,
Right. So, yeah. And I would say in the last few games, he's been like
pretty
a
solid.
good version
Yeah.
of Trevor Ruland. Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, you'll take it. I mean, is
Yeah,
it
that
what
whole
you
right
want to?
side's done well. Josh Lugg's done really well over
Yeah.
there recently too.
Sticking on blocks. They're
I
doing a
mean, he
much better
may
job.
he may actually have a chance at an NFL career the way he's playing. Is he a
Yeah.
tackle? I don't know, but he certainly has played better than he has in a long, long time. So you
Definitely.
got to be happy for him with that regard. Um, how much would you have to pay on Super Chat to ban Buckos? You know what, man? If I could figure out how to do it in chat, I'd ban him right now. But I
Yeah.
just I don't know how. I need to figure that out before the next one, Jamie. What do you think?
I think that's
I
a
mean,
good one.
just
I
for the
mean,
fun of it, just so he couldn't actually post. I like that idea. I
yeah.
think we should do that. A question for Mike: how can you honestly say that we have zero chance at Arch? You said the same thing about Tony Driver in '97. Well, I did say the same thing about Tony Driver in '97. That's because Tony Driver himself told me that there was no chance and that he was going to go to Louisville. But then what happened in that situation was his mom and dad, he went home to see them, and mom and dad said, "You're making a bad decision." And then Tony changed his mind. So, but yes, I did say that, and I was wrong. And I'll never forget. I called a certain ND coach up, and I basically said to that coach, "You're not going to believe this, but Tony Driver's going to choose Notre Dame tomorrow." And he said, "No, that's not true. He's already told us he's going to Florida State." And I said, "Well, no, I'm telling you, that's what I've heard." And no, that's not true. And I said, "Look, I have a great relationship with this guy. I can guarantee you that's happening. We've had this worked out for a long time." And the coach said, "Look, man, here's the way this is going to work. I'm going to walk in and I'm going to tell Bob Davey this. And if you're wrong, I'll never talk to you again." And that was exactly the situation. And thank God I wasn't wrong. So, the good old days. All right, let's see here. Why the F is Buckner not in the game when we're inside the 10? Even if it's just to hand it off 3 times. At least it will give the running backs more room. He and Kyron need to be in after the pick. Preaching to the choir to me, but I do think that there are certain situations where you do want Cohn in the game. But I would like to see him in for the vast majority of, because I just think it opens up so much in the running game. And that's really the way Notre Dame wants to score. So, again, sorry. I've kind of got a cold going here. Jamie, any thoughts?
Well, the one thing that I would say that why it's not always an automatic is because if they're playing 13 personnel and Cone is under center, we haven't seen Buckner take a snap from under center, and he might not be comfortable with it. So I think that actually could be a legitimate reason. And the other thing is, I'll say Cone done a pretty good job on the quarterback sneaks too. So that's always an option there with him. So, and they did score. Diggs went over the top on the one play with them there too. So.
All right. Question: the O-line doesn't seem to make huge holes, but just giving running backs some time to find a small hole. Are you satisfied with the amount of room they give the running backs to run? Well, I mean, from where it was to where it is now, hell yes.
Yeah.
It was terrible to begin. And anybody watching this team, if you can't see the vast improvement in the O-line, it's there. Trust me, they are light years better than they were, and so that I think is important.
Wait, sorry. One thing I'll say too is that I think when you look at Kyron Williams and how good he is, and let's say Kyron Williams ran behind that 2017 line.
Oh wow!
I mean, I think Chris Tyree would rush for 2,500 yards behind that line because
He
there would
probably
be
would,
like a million holes. Like
yeah.
he would like Adams obviously had like multiple 60-yard runs.
Oh yeah.
And it would be the same kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Just gigantic holes, him running through gaps and just, taking it to the house.
I agree. Okay. Got our next one here. This is my first day in this chat, but how do you see the O-line next? I guess he means next year. The two tackles are certainly going to be Joe Alt and Fisher. Where they line up, I don't know, but I think that's coming. Christophic, obviously going to be a guard, and then after that, it's kind of up in the air. Will Carell get strong enough to play center? I don't know. We'll see. But there's plenty of other guys who could play there. I mean, even Christophic has played center, so he could potentially play center as well. We believe Rocco Spindler will be in the mix for sure, somewhere at guard. And then I don't know. I don't know who the other guy will be. Any ideas, Jamie?
Well, I would say Coogan, he might have a chance at that center position. I
Yeah,
wouldn't count him out. So he might be
yeah.
someone
They're
to look
high
at.
on him. They definitely are.
Yeah.
So
And then I also think, Michael Carmody, you got to see, I think he could easily be someone that, if he continues to physically develop, he could be a guy who competes at guard.
yeah. Because he's
Tosh
going to be a
Baker.
big boy too. I mean, he'll be
Yeah.
big. The line's going to be so much bigger, just
Yeah.
size wise next year. Christophic will put on a good 10 pounds. So will Alt. We'll see what happens with Carell if he's playing or not, or whether it's Coogan. If it's Coogan, you're going to have a 315-pound center for sure. He's already 310. They'll have to redistribute some weight, but he's going to be plenty big. And then we know that Rocco's going to be 325 for sure. So, I mean, they're going to be in a good situation for sure, size-wise.
Definitely.
Yeah. Let's see. Hang on. Oh, yeah, that's just what we just answered. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them. We're almost done here. So if you got any questions, go ahead. Oh, hang on. Hey, Mike, how did Kentucky get the best lineman in the nation? He's from Indiana.
Oh, Keontae Goodwin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I don't believe
Matt
he
is
could get
addressed.
in, right? I don't think he could get in.
No.
Yeah.
There's no way he could get in.
That was
school.
yeah, exactly.
And he's also, he's been to like 5 schools in the last 4 years. He's lived in like Indiana and Kentucky and all over. Sometimes those kids, whatever, it does work out okay if the guy's transfer school, but he was not a guy who was on Notre Dame's board. And I mean, big potential, but I mean, he can end up being a gigantic bust.
Yeah. All right, we got one more question here, Jamie. We'll fire this one up. UVA BYU is 35-38 at the second quarter. How many of Indy's fan base would die of coronarias if this was the Irish? Well, very well could be for all we know. Look, Virginia scores. I mean, they just do. They're going to give it. It's not going to be a fun game, folks. It's just not going to be fun. It'll be just like this game, and then it'll be a matter of pulling teeth on how many stops they can get. And to be honest with you, I don't know. I think Notre Dame will win. I think they'll win by probably 2 touchdowns. But they're going to score. They're going to score probably 35 points. I would guess at least. Wouldn't you, Jamie?
I would think so. They've scored on everybody. Even when they got, got blown out by North Carolina, they still scored 39. The problem was they gave up 59, right? So, I think one thing to watch though, and then one thing I don't know if you've noticed is over the last couple of weeks, especially with how Notre Dame has really kind of, because they've driven the ball so much, they kind of shortened the game with the amount of drives. So I could see that where, it kind of forces it's a little bit Navy-ish where it kind of forces the other team to kind of be perfect. And that was the thing where North Carolina, it's not like they didn't play a good game on offense. They played a great game on offense and scored a ton of points, but they basically had to be perfect because Notre Dame was close to perfect, right? They had only, they had the first drive, right, where they didn't score, but it wasn't a bad drive, right? And then they had the 1 3-and-out. That's it. And then, I mean, I can't recall a Notre Dame game other than when they're playing a Navy and they're just like so much more physically talented than where they've been that efficient in terms of scoring points.
Yeah. All right, folks, that's going to be it. Jamie's got to get back to doing his instant reaction. So that's going to be it for the show this week. Hope you enjoyed that. We will be ready to have our Power Hour, and we'll talk about the game, take a look at it. And so look for our Power Hour coming up on Monday as our review, and then we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about with Navy and what to expect with that. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hey, a win's a win, and folks, you got to be excited about the offense, man. Defense, sure, we can sit and complain, but man, if the offense starts improving, I mean, this could be a really good offense by the end of the year, and I think it's gonna be. I think it's really gonna surprise Jamie by the end of the year how good this offense is gonna be. Notre Dame, they just got too many good skill players. You can't defend everybody they have, and as long as Cone can distribute the ball, they give him enough time. There's enough playmakers to really make it hard for anybody to defend, Jamie.
Yeah, and they're playing at some horrific defenses coming up, so
Yeah, it's going to look good.
Defense.
It's probably going to look better than it actually is, but hey, I'll take that for once.
I wouldn't be surprised if Andy averaged 40 over the rest of the season.
I wouldn't either.
Because of their improvement and also the teams they're playing.
Yeah. All right, that's going to be it, folks. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon with Power Hour, and then we'll be back after the Navy game as well. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you real soon.